Hello and welcome to this ad-libbed voiceover of my Aria of Sorrow Castlevania gameplay. This is my first playthrough. Okay, technically it's not my first playthrough of the game. I've touched it before. I have not completed it. I have gotten past, I believe, the first boss, but I haven't gotten anywhere near completing it, certainly. I do happen to have a feel for the game at the moment, and I have decided to dedicate this series to playing through the entire game with everybody here at the lounge and anybody who happens to watch this. Aria of Sorrow, it's a lot different comparative to its other GBA Castlevania games. Those others being Harmony of Dissonance and the other one that I'm playing right now, it's Circle of the Moon. A lot of things that you're going to notice when we get into the actual gameplay session is, how the combat system works. Before we get into that, we've got this prologue about our main character, Soma Cruz, who's studying abroad in Japan, and he's about to go and look at the new solar eclipse of the 21st century off in Japan. And then over here we have the Dracula's castle, which have been summoned during the lunar moon eclipse. No, it's solar. Whoops. Yeah, you can tell how well I planned this one out. And so we have his friend and, a new character showing up. I will say that it's an interesting storyline to go off of in this game. I haven't really, even though I haven't played a whole lot of it, I can tell that it's probably going to be just about as story-based as the other GBA games are, which is decently. They don't happen to hammer lore in your face, but they do happen to let you know that it exists. And so, yeah, something that I'd also like to mention, those are the enemies. Yeah, something I'd like to mention is that, so there's a new game mechanic. Soma has the ability to randomly collect the soul of whatever enemy he's killed, and he can possess abilities based on who he kills. So, for instance, there's some skeletons that I happen to kill later in the game or later in this video, I should say. I happen to kill some skeletons, and eventually they'll drop the ability to toss bones, as they do. So, it's an interesting way to keep the gameplay somewhat consistent, but very different and broad at the same time. So, like, for instance, in Harmony and Dissonance, you'd have to collect element books, and you have to have all your attacks based on that, and there's a lot of weapons and whip attachments that you can get for your whip. And in this game, however, as you're going to see, is everything is very everything is weapon based. However, you're not using a whip, because Soma isn't part of the Belmont clan. He's not part of anybody in the actual sort of he's not really a part of the family in which was off to kill Dracula. So, you have to go around and scrounge for weapons around in the castle. Over here, I happen to get endlessly harassed by zombies, and I chose to linger around in there because I wanted to collect the soul for the zombie. Sorry. Um, and do apologize. The frame rate in this has been rather jittery. And there I go, collect the soul. It's it's a great game because it adds variety on how you're making to survive in this game. However, it does kind of involve a lot more farming because there's various enemies that you'll have to kill later in the game in order to reach other areas in the game. So as you'll see later, there's holes, or not holes. There's areas in map sections, like right there, where you can't get to unless you find an alternate path or you obtain these wings. I forgot who you happen to kill to get the wings from, but you kill somebody and you get the wings, and you can float over to areas. And I'm taking a look at the soul set, which is the soul ability equipped section. And you know, there's I will say that the pause menu in this game is a lot more intense. Not really intense, but just really more filled with stuff comparative to the other ones. For example, in Circle of the Moon, there was no sort of tomb that you could open and read to learn about the enemies that you've killed, as in where in Aria of Sorrow it gets given to you at the start, and in Harmony of Dissonance it's a book that you have to find at some point hidden throughout the castle. And so this game feels a lot more RPG like, as in the sense where you're out there and you're scrounging for better and better weapons to get farther and farther in the game. As for example, this pendant, which doesn't really do much of anything, it just goes in the accessory slot in your armor. I'm sorry, I'm still getting over my sickness. And yeah, so in this area you're getting some nice PlatinumBass ASMR in here, I guess. I don't know. In this section, you'll notice that I can't dive down, and and certainly, eventually, I don't remember at what point in the game I kill something in order to swim down, but it is possible, and you have to pick up some tasty meat. It doesn't really look like meat. It looks more like a box with a rose on it to me, more than anything, but well, it's Castlevania, what do you expect? And yeah, my reflexes are still kind of off, and I apologize for the quality of this video. I understand it's a KineMaster, and like the FPS rate drops, it increases a whole bunch. I can't really control it. I also happen to have DU recorder recording my gameplay for me, so it's not the best or optimal. And it's a shame that I don't happen to have game audio going on for this. It sucks, I know. If I can find a better one that's free, I'd definitely work with it. And so, yeah, I happened to run back in here, make a last sweep through things, or make an attempt to at least. Soul grabbing and stuff, making an attempt to. I do notice that in this game, the bats happen to fly a lot slower than they normally do in other Castlevania games. I'm not sure why that happens to be the case. I'm just noting that. Maybe there's some sort of bigger and badder bat monster later that we just gotta work ourselves up to. Or maybe the enemies in this game happen to get more and more intense as the game goes on, their strength. So then I decided to tangle with the merman, and I get an ability right off the bat. It's pretty nice. It doesn't really have a whole lot of practicality, but I'm sure that it might come in handy later as we go through this. You know. And I do happen to note, I'm noting a lot of things, aren't I? The mermen don't really like to come up. I'm not sure why. Sometimes you have to incite them to move. And there's another soul for the mermen. Water pistol. And there's another one. Yeah, it came at... Yeah, I don't know. And then, earlier, I said something about an alternate path to get to certain areas. I'm about to do that, and I'm going to grab the cloak over at the top. I've not really done much of anything towards this. I will power past these skeletons, however. Make an attempt to try to do something with that. They're an iconic enemy in this game series. I'm not sure why Dracula happened to choose skeletons to do his evil bidding, but oh well. You'd think that if it were Dracula trying to hire minions or take control of minions to destroy the world as we know it, then you'd think he would have picked something a little more dangerous and deadly to be his foot soldiers, not just a bunch of bones. But the axe armors that we'll see later in this game certainly are not something you'd want to mess with early on in the game. I'll be ending it here for this video. Leave some comments saying if you want to see more of this, and I'll see you in another video, I guess. Bye.